So my mission from day one was to tie every single plan to that. So what exactly did I do? Number one, I knew at least I had to get good grades in school, at least the first class, second class, upper, thereabouts. I should be able to get that. I should be able to write some international, certifications, and also I should be able to have some international exposure in some sense, So I took advantage of all opportunities that align me towards my goal. This is very, very, very important. Very, very, very important. So in our lives, we take strategic decisions. If you want to get married, you take a strategic decision. You look at where you want your family to be and the kind of person you want to marry. And then that informs your decision on who to choose. Because you are looking at yourselves 50 years from now, 40 years from now. This is the same thing that applies to businesses. This is the same thing that applies to businesses. Every business must have a strategy. And this is somehow the bane or the limitation of businesses in Africa and in Ghana, our country. So most businesses don't have a strategy. It's they basically operate on survival mode. What do I mean by survival mode? So they just open a shop in front of their house. They are not looking 10 years ahead. So they're just looking for some daily profits, to keep the family running. But ideally, that shouldn't be the case. The case should be that, okay, what exactly do I want to achieve? What is the end goal? And based on that end goal, you fit in plans to feed into that end goal. So the definition of strategy basically is a course of action that you take. That is long-term in nature. And includes a specification of resources that is required for achieving the goals. So what does this plain English mean? First of all, you have an intended objective. This objective or course of action must be long-term in nature. When we say long-term, we are thinking 5 years and beyond. So it must be long-term in nature, first of all. Then you would need certain tools to help you get there. Those are the resources. You can't achieve a goal without resources. You can't achieve a goal without capabilities. Sorry, there's a bit of noise in the background. So you can't achieve goals without resources. You can't achieve goals without capabilities, like I said, or what we call strategic capabilities. So, for instance, you are taking your exam, but you knew that because the end goal is that you want to charter, you knew that one of the things that would serve as a resource would be going for a class, So these are resources that you need to achieve the goal. Another resource would be your materials. Another resource would be me. And another resource will be your colleagues. So I forgot to mention, but you can contact me anytime during the week if you have any questions, But you should know that all organizations do not exist in a vacuum. There's no organization in this world that exists in a vacuum. Like they are standing on their own and they do things on their own. They either influence or are being influenced, or both. And most times it's both. So they are constantly influencing the environment, and the environment is constantly influencing them. It's like a never-ending cycle. So that is where business analysis comes in. Business analysis and strategy go hand in hand. They always go hand in hand. So you have every firm has a strategic position, its position in the environment. And basically, that position determines how it operates in that environment. And anytime you are drawing up strategy, you need to look at that strategic context, that strategic standpoint in order to draw a strategy. So let me give an example. A typical example is in Ghana. There's a station called Peace FM. Peace FM. At the time, Peace FM, I think it was in 1999. At the time, Peace FM was established in Ghana. News in Chi was a foreign concept. News in Chi was a foreign concept. A lot of the radio stations were doing their stuff in English. So the Despite group of companies, or Peace FM, they had a strategy. And their strategy long-term was to penetrate the local indigenous markets. They wanted to speak to our grandmothers in the village. They wanted to speak to our mothers in the markets. They wanted to speak to our dads who are going to their daily business in Accra, who haven't had a university education, who couldn't speak English. So they did a business analysis. They looked at everything that is influencing the organization and influencing that particular radio industry. And they saw that, okay, everyone seems to go to the line of English. It's all English, English, English. But we have a different strategy. We want to reach out to the indigents. We want to reach out to the indigents because a lot of people, I think, speak Twi in Ghana. So we want to reach out to the indigents. So their strategy was influenced by their business analysis. And they penetrated that market so well. And up to date, they've captured a whole lot of the market. And people started to follow. People saw the possibility in doing radio programming in Twi. So people started to follow. That's how come we have a lot of radio stations now, doing their programs in Twi. So that's the power of strategy. That's the power of foresight. That's another word for strategy. Foresight, forward-looking, long-term. That's the power. Anytime you're thinking of strategy, there are some keywords that you should be looking at. Keywords you should be looking at. So first of all, you should know that it's a pattern of activities. It's not haphazard in nature. It's a pattern of activities that is designed to attain some long-term goal. It's not haphazard activities. Otherwise, if the activities are haphazard, you are likely not to hit the goal. And this was Peter Drucker's definition of strategy. So Drucker is a famous management theorist that I'm sure you'll come along or you come across as you go through your notes and you start studying. So it's a pattern of activities. So, okay, you know that you are going to do X in 5 years, or you want to achieve this in 5 years. So you have a pattern of activities. All those activities are supposed to align to that goal. Very, very important. The activities are not haphazard or unrelated. The activities are structured in such a way that it helps you to achieve the goal. So let's say, for instance, for example, the example I used about Peace FM. Let's say Peace FM has the goal to reach the indigenous market, the local people, those who speak Twi. All their marketing and all their targeting will be focused on those people. That's what we mean by pattern of activities or related activities. Related activities. So if they are doing any promotions, they'll probably go to trotro stations, they'll probably go to fuel stations, they'll probably go to the markets, because the people they are trying to reach are there. That's what I mean by pattern of activities. The activities must be patterned in such a way that it leads you to achieve the goal. This is very, very key. So these are some keywords that should come up when you are discussing strategy. Another word or phrase that must always be in your mind, which I've already emphasized or reiterated, is resource, or it should be resource-based. You can't achieve strategy without resource. You can't achieve strategy without resource. And again, I always want to make my examples local. You probably won't see that in your textbook, but I want to make my examples local so you can relate to it. So when you look at Peace FM again, because of their strategy, they had people, or they recruited people who were vast in the tree language. They could communicate properly in the tree language. So they got all these people, I think they trained them and they got them on board. Why? Because they need those people to achieve their strategy, to achieve the strategy. So it should be resource-based. SWOT, for example, has a strategy of becoming the leading, professional education provider, So they get the best of people, the best of teachers, the best of lecturers in order to achieve that goal, because when you get the best of lecturers, it translates into pass rates and the overall strategy is achieved. Another thing is the environmental context. Like I said already, organizations do not exist in a vacuum. So anytime you are talking an organization, we are looking at the environment, and we'll be delving a lot more into stakeholders, environmental influences, models for analyzing the external environment. I think I already touched on activities that have to be organized or related. It's the same concept. And strategy is usually objective-oriented, and is long-term in nature. So, in brief, if anyone asks you, okay, what is strategy? There are some words that should pop in your mind quickly, some words that should pop in your mind. Words like courses of action, words like pattern of activities, words like resource-based, environmental context. Those are the words that should be found in your definition. And it should be easy for you to explain, because it's something you go through on a daily basis. I won't advise true and poor learning. I'll just advise that you know certain keywords and you are able to explain in your own words. So that's strategy and business analysis in a nutshell. Okay, so we move on to strategic questions. Strategic questions. What are some of the questions you ask when you are developing strategy? What are some of the questions you ask? But before that, this is a definition that is well known. It's by three guys called Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington. Well known definition, because it captures the entirety of strategy. So it is something that is really, really well known. So it says, is the direction and scope of an organization over the long term, which seeks to achieve advantage in a changing environment through configuration of resources and competencies with the aim of fulfilling stakeholder expectations. So you see, you see some of the keywords that we are talking about, all of them, are encapsulated in this definition. Keywords like long-term, advantage, environment, resources, stakeholder expectations. All of them are encapsulated within the concept of strategy. So now we can talk about strategic questions. Strategic questions. We can talk about that now. Before any organization develops strategy, they need to ask themselves questions. At Ernst & Young, there's a slogan we have. It says, the better the questions, the better the answers. The better the questions, the better the answers. So if you ask a lot more questions, you are likely to get, better or very, very good, very, very good answers. Very, very good answers. So some of the questions that you ask, some of the questions that you ask will be, for instance, you want to know where you are currently. Where you are currently is very, very, very important. Where am I now? Or where are we now? Your present positioning, very, very important. You need to know where you are. That's what you need to know. That's the first, one of the key questions you must ask yourself, because you must know where you are to determine where you are going. Very, very important. You must know where you are to determine where you are going. So your current positioning is very, very, very important. So where are we now? Where are we now? Very, very important. Where are we now? Then another question you can ask yourself is, where do we want to be in 5 years' time? Where exactly do we want to be? Where exactly do we want to be? Where do we see ourselves going? Where do we want to, what do we want to achieve? What would be success for us as an organization? So these are examples. These are examples of the questions that could be asked. And you see, in each of the questions, you see all these questions highlight the definition we talked about. Where are we now is the strategic position of the organization. Where do we want to be in 5 years' time is a strategic direction of the company. So you see how all these questions seem to capture our definition of strategy. So that's how you should be thinking about it. Then another thing is, how many employees will it need? And what skills will they need? How many employees will it need? And what skills will they need? So this is a question of resources, competencies. Resources, competencies. So you see, all the concepts are coming to life in these questions. How many employees do we need? Okay, we need 5 employees. We need 100 employees. Okay, they need to be skilled in this area. Skilled in this area. This is very, 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 very crucial. Very, very crucial. Very, very crucial. Okay. So, another question that should be asked in this era of technology and in this era of IT and all that, what technology should we use? What technology should we use? In marketing to our target audience, do we have to do posters, or we have to go through social media? Social media today is a very, very powerful tool. So what kind of technology should be used? So these are questions that you need to ask. Recently, or I think some months ago, I was doing a consulting project for a non-profit organization. And what they were trying to do was to increase their membership. So we asked the same questions. Their strategy was to become one of the top, non-profit organizations that is serving women. So we asked the question around technology, which was very, very important. But first of all, we needed to understand, the kind of people they are reaching at the moment, and their age structure, their age structure. So based on the surveys we did and all that, we realized that, we can actually target people on social media. These people were not old people, so they go to social media to do their stuff. So if you post adverts on social media, we'll be able to get them there. Another question we should also be asking ourselves is, how do we get from where we are to where we want to be? How do we get from where we are to where we want to be? Like I always say, there is a pattern of activities that lead to our desired goal or strategy. So we need to know how, the steps to take to get to where we want to be. We need to know the steps. So maybe we do this, we do that to get to where we want to be. Very, very important. Very, very important. Without knowing those steps, you cannot achieve your goal. Without knowing those steps, you cannot achieve your goal. So it is understanding. It's like you are playing chess, or what they say in Ghana, dummy. You need to know exactly, where you want to get to, and how you position your players to achieve the intended goal, which is to win. So how do we want to get from where we are to where we want to be? How do we want to get? So one of the things Peace FM did when they came, is because they wanted to penetrate the indigenous markets. They were doing a lot of promotions among taxi drivers, trotro drivers, and market people. They were doing a lot of that. So, and it was a smart strategy because a lot of people in Ghana use trotro and use taxis and go to the market. At least you have to, transportation and food, these are things you can't do without. So when they reached out to the drivers, they gave them free food. The drivers began to play, put their radio station on Peace FM. It was always on Peace FM. And the passengers too will listen, So that's how the whole vibe caught up, In the markets too, usually market women will have their small radio by them. And it's the same thing. And it caught up. So that was a smart, activity or promotion plan they put in place in order to achieve their strategy. So these are some of the questions. There are several questions you could ask. These are some of the questions. There are several questions you could ask, but these are some of the questions that come into mind. You also need to know where you'll be operating as a business. Where will you be operating, and what will you be doing there? Where will you be operating? So the location of your organization is important. The location of your organization is important. So in terms of which people are you trying to serve, you have to get closer to the people you are trying to serve. And in terms, what I mean by closer is not necessarily physical proximity. Maybe in the 19th or the 18th century, that's what it meant. But in this age of technology and innovation and internet, you can be closer to your customers on the internet by constantly engaging them, constantly engaging them. So you need to know where the location of your business would be. Will it be in Ashaman or to be on Facebook? Will it be in Kokrobite or to be on Twitter? And where exactly will you be doing? Where exactly will you be doing? And one thing you should know is the product or the service you are offering will determine, the location as well. The product you are offering and the people you are trying to reach will determine your location. Very, very important. Very, very important. So these are some of the strategic questions you would be you need to ask yourself. And the more you dive into these questions, the better the answers and the well formulated your strategy will be. Does anyone have any questions so far? Any questions so far?
We are following.
Okay. Am I going too fast or too slow? It's okay.